students, teachers, and friends. This is Gary Salvner, co-chair of the English Festival Committee, and I am delighted that you're joining us for this special session. We have a very special guest with us. Before we start, I want to thank everybody who's been involved in the very big challenge of putting this virtual English Festival together, the English Festival Committee, all of the presenters, and so on. And so, having said that, I want to get right into the session. I am delighted to introduce Chris Crutcher, Youngstown's own FFF, and no, that's not a dirty word, that's fabulous friend of the festival, for this special session of our 2020 Virtual English Festival. Chris has been to Youngstown for the festival 6 times, going all the way back to his first visit in 1992. I think he might have been 12 then. He's written 15 books for teens, nearly all of them about the challenges of growing up and surviving in today's world of conflict and struggle. Chris's books have received virtually all the awards and starred reviews a person can summon in contemporary young adult fiction. He's also the recipient of 2 Lifetime Achievement Awards for his work, the Margaret A. Edwards Award given by the American Library Association, and the Allen Award given by the Adolescent Literature Assembly of the National Council of Teachers of English. He's also received and is particularly proud of 2 Intellectual Freedom Awards from NCTE and from the National Coalition Against Censorship. Chris, it's great to have you back in Youngstown, albeit virtually. I'm going to turn it over to you and you can say hi and we can perhaps chat. I want to mention as we're starting, anyone listening, if you want to send in questions via Facebook or Instagram, we'll see what we can do to shovel them over to Chris and at least allow him to answer some of those questions during the session. Okay, Chris, take it away.
Oh, that sounds great. It is so great to be there again. You know, I say this almost every time I come, and it always bears repeating. Since about 1985, when I started doing school visits, I've got over 2.5 million air miles. I've been in every state in the union, most of them several times, in probably 12 or 13 countries at the American International Schools. And this is still by far my favorite venue. I mean, number one, I don't know a festival, and I know some good ones, but I don't know a festival that has as much passion behind it as this one has. And I don't know a festival that reaches as many students as this does, and as many teachers. I get letters from teachers now. I get emails from teachers who went to this thing as kids, and then they bring their kids back to the festival. And it's never changed. The passion behind this thing has never changed. And I was really interested to see how this was going to go, because number one, I know that in terms of learning about writing and all of that, you guys have had some really good authors there. I love the Wallaces, and Rita is one of the favorites too. I mean, they probably covered a lot of the really good things that you need to know about writing and finding good books and things like that. But the interesting thing to me right now is the reason that we're doing this. Because I look back, and I've been doing a lot of virtual school visits, and one of the things that I notice is this is a first-time thing for everybody. I mean, in July, I'll be 74 years old, and I've never seen anything like this. I was a senior in high school when President Kennedy was assassinated. I remember Columbine. I remember 9/11. I mean, all of those things. And this is a whole different thing. And for you kids that are writers, you are in the front end of this. I mean, this is amazing to me, because we don't know what's going to happen. And there's going to be it's obviously uncomfortable. And there's a certain kind of distressing thing about not knowing what happens next. But there's also the first time. I mean, we sit at home, all of us can sit at home, and you have to spend some time thinking. And if you're a writer, you got to be writing this stuff down, because one of the things that I look at when I'm talking to people who want to be writers, and what I love about this festival is everybody here's a writer. The thing that I look at is, where do you go to find your stories? Where do you go to find your characters? And this is like the front end of a new time. Now, a lot of things are going to go back to normal. There'll be a lot of things that go back to normal, but there are going to be some things that we think about that are going to be brand new. We're going to have to be creative. We're going to have to figure out for a little while how to connect with our friends, all of that. Good thing we have the internet. This would not have worked in 1964 when I was in high school, because you wouldn't be able to connect like we can now. But the other part about it is when people say when they're asking for advice for a writer, one of the things I always say is read like crazy, because I didn't do that. And it took me till I was 35 to catch up. So I didn't write my first book till I was 35. And I would not have been at this festival probably, because it was hard for me I had a real bad case of ADHD, and it was real hard for me to focus. But I go back and I look at what got me going. And what I remember is intensity made me write, made me want to tell stories. When things got really intense, that's when I want to tell stories. And so what I say to you now is, when you're looking at this, when you think of something that makes you sad, write it down. If you think something makes you laugh, like you're going to wet your pants, write it down. If you think about something that makes you so angry you can't see straight, write it down, because those are going to be the places that your stories come from. And when you get a little ways away from this and start to see how people are responding and all that, and you're picking characters among your friends and among your enemies and things like that, this is a really, really interesting plot. It's a really interesting plot. So that's just a start in terms of kind of what advice to writers, and because it would have been good advice to me. The second thing, and then I'll kind of open it up for questions and some dialogue between Gary and me. I started really, really going after story when I started working as a therapist with child abuse and neglect. And one of the things that happened when I wrote stories about child abuse and neglect was I was way out of my element. I grew up in a pretty normal family, and I had not experienced any of the things that the clients who were coming to me had experienced. And my expertise was people from your age and older, so middle school, high school, and parents. And it changed my idea of what a hero is, because all of a sudden I was working with kids who were standing up under pressure that would have crushed me. And they were coming away with these amazing survival skills, things I would have never thought of, and they were brilliant. Sometimes they were really hard. I mean, there were a lot of people, there were a lot of fights. There were a lot of kids getting thrown out of school. There were a whole bunch of those kind of things. But they were kids who were just piecing things together to try to make it to the next day. And that fascinated me. So all of a sudden, and when you're a therapist, you can't take a story out of a therapy session and put it in a book unless you have a really good lawyer and no ethics. But you hear one story, 5 stories, 50 stories, and the truth starts to float. And you take those truths and you stick them into your made up characters. And that's the beauty of writing fiction, is you get to make it up. When you start writing that book, you're God. You've just created a world, and you get to decide what happens in it. And all you have to do is make the people who are going to read it, you don't have to make them believe it happened. You have to make them believe it could have happened. And that goes for fantasy. It goes for science fiction. It goes for any of those things. When you go back and look at Harry Potter, where does Harry Potter start out? He's a foster kid, right? He's on the outside. At that point, he doesn't know anything about being a wizard. So those are the kinds of things that get you going, like those stories got me going, are probably the things that you are going to want to write about. So I would like to just kind of open it up for questions. Gary, you and I had talked about some things you thought were.
Sure. Yeah, Chris, let me shoot you some. And again, anybody who wants to send something in, if we can tack that into the conversation, I'm delighted to do that. Chris, you talked about this being a changed time, and I'm just wondering about your own kind of living. I think all of us wonder that. How has your routine changed? Has your life changed? Do you still write the way you were? Are you kind of what's happening in your own life?
Well, it's interesting because when this thing first happened, and I was supposed to go to Wright State in your state, I was supposed to do a thing at Wright State, and they hadn't closed it off yet, and people were talking about, was this thing going to happen? And I got a note from my doctor, who knows kind of what I do and that I travel a lot, and she said, Chris, I know you think you have the strongest immune system in the world, but you're 73 years old, stay home. And all of a sudden it occurred to me, that's right. And being older, you know, that was one of the dangers. And so I started looking at this idea of not going to the airport every week, or not going to the airport every 2 weeks or so, and staying home. And there was a part of it, you know, the whole thing about staying away from people and not being able to hug or shake hands or things like that, you know, goes against my natural instinct. And the whole thing about being careful to go to a store. So there's a part of this that I mean, it's in isolation, but it's also, it forced me to get way more internet savvy like this, because I've been doing school visits and things like that over the internet. I started doing those the minute the stay-at-home orders started happening. And one of the things that I found was that even though you're not there, it's a little more intimate, because all the kids are home. They're in their bedrooms, or they're, you know, in the kitchen or something like that. And they're more likely to ask personal questions or more intimate questions. And I like that. And then there's always the thing in the back of your head, because this virus is like invisible. And it's like, I was watching the outtakes for The Invisible Man, and there's a place there where she wants to see him, so she like pours paint on him or something. And you can't pour paint on the virus because it's just too small. So there's this thing where you say, you know, I don't want to get that thing, and I don't want to give it to anybody. So and then the second part of that, the writing part of that, I've had to really discipline myself, because I have a lot of writing time, and my way to kill time is go to Netflix. So it's like I have to give myself a schedule, because I'm not blocked off by you know, things that I have to do. But it spurred my writing. It spurred my imagination. I mean, I think going forward from here, I mean, I'm working on a couple projects now, but they're almost finished. Going forward from here, this time is going to have to work its way into a lot of different plots, I think. So that's kind of what it's like. It's interesting because it's also a time, see, it's been easier for me. I think it's easier for those of us that are, well, certainly I do. When you write, you're isolated anyway, but you know, we're older, and we're not on the front end of this. We're not the people who are going to be on the cutting edge, the tip of the arrow, to decide what happens next. And the people at this festival are those people. So,
Chris, we've got a couple of great questions that have come in, and I'm going to sort of shoot them to you one at a time. Sarah is one of the teachers from our area that's brought kids for many years, and she says, so many of my students who are not readers end up becoming readers after I put one of your books in their hands for the first time. Is there any advice, though, for getting the not writers to become writers? That is, how do you take it to the issue of writing?
I think the best way to do that, particularly with somebody who doesn't like to write, I think the best way to do that is to open it up a little bit. It's like when I was in high school, I wasn't very good at structured writing. So like the five sentence paragraph and the 5-paragraph essay, I get lost in the middle of those. I had these two teachers, and they both had really good senses of humor, and they were both strict disciplinarians. And back in those days, there was a hardwood paddle hanging in the office, and it had like 10 holes drilled in it, so it put blisters on your rear end if they ever hit you with it. And it wasn't decorative; it was there for utility. And these two guys, and they were masters with this thing. They could lift you off the ground. And a lot of times when I get in trouble, they would give me a choice of the paddle or a 500-word essay. And the only requirement on that 500-word essay was 500 words, any 500 words. So I was kind of cut loose. And both of these guys had really good senses of humor. Now I'd do an English essay and, you know, I could get a C- on it and I could write it. I wrote a lot of those things without the kind of pride I should have had. I'd stay up till 2 o'clock in the morning and try to make those guys laugh. And I would write it over and over again. And I would say it out loud. I'd do the whole thing because almost all of us, whether we're writers or not, we all have emotions. You know, we want to make people feel what we feel. And writing is a good way to do that. So if I turn you loose and I don't put any restraints on you, we can go back later and fix it. And that's one of the things that I learned. One of the things that I learned real early on was that the first draft is just get it out there. Second draft is where you make it dance. That's where you go back and fix it up and use the right words and all that. But boy, that first part is fun because you just cut loose. And that's where I'd start.
That's great. Jackie asks, I know you've been working on a book about gun violence. Is it close to publication? What's been happening with that book?
You know, it's been close to publication. I finished it at one point, and then I wanted Loser's Bracket, which was the last one to come out. I wanted it to come out first, so I kind of shelved the shooting book, and then I the shooting book was basically an afterwards story. There was I kind of modeled the shooting itself after the Newtown shooting. It wasn't done in a school. It was done in a mall. And there were first graders and kindergarten kids waiting to see Santa Claus. And the shooter was in a place where he could just pick people off. But the story gets told when those surviving kids are juniors and seniors in high school. So I had written the story and I was doing some of the editing and we were just kind of going over, you know, how we wanted to put it out. And the shooting at Stoneman Douglas happened. And I knew the librarian, Diana Haneski at Stoneman Douglas, because she had invited me to a school that she was at before. And I just thought I had to do something. I just said, you know, I wrote her an email and I said, you guys got a freebie. I will fly myself there at no cost. I'll put myself up any way you want, and I'll do it whenever you want. We can do it next year when things get back to normal, year after that, year after that. Boy, she's a dynamo. She called me 2 months later and said, we got to do this. And so I got on a plane and went down there, and we set it up so that I would do a little keynote speech at the beginning of, I was there 2 days, and a keynote speech each morning. And then she had a bunch of other authors come in to do panels from around the Miami area. And then we'd give the kids like 25 minutes after each panel to ask questions. And those kids just flocked to the writer who wrote a story that was about them. And it was diverse. I mean, it was ethnically diverse, sexual preference, trans people, you name it. And they had authors there. And the kids didn't want to talk about the shooting. They've been talking about the shooting all the time. Some of them did, but mostly they just wanted their story told. And I mean, there was a girl there who pulled her dead boyfriend over her body and just held her breath. And she said, I just wanted it to be quick. So I have these conversations with the teachers who are involved in this, who are there, and with the kids. And I think, wow, there's more to write. So I went back, and it's almost finished now. I went back and I just started adding in those pieces, those little details that those kids talked about that you would never even, it wouldn't occur to you unless you had been there. So I'm working on a couple other projects, but I think that's going to be within this next year. It should be finished.
Chris, we got 2 questions in that actually fit together very nicely. Alyssa wrote to ask, what are some of the books that you read that inspired you to want to write your own stories? And then Mary asked what books you're reading recently that you might recommend. So you can pick up either or both of those in the past, something that influenced you, or what you're reading now.
I think the first book that really influenced me, because I was in high school, I was copying all my brother's book reports, and I was just trying to figure out how to get through high school. But when I was a sophomore in high school, To Kill a Mockingbird had just come out. And my English teacher, she was a good English teacher, but she seemed to always give us, long dead authors. And all of a sudden she gave us To Kill a Mockingbird. And I picked it up and I started to read, and the voice of that story and the connection that I felt with Scout. I mean, Scout felt like my friend. I mean, I got this sense that she would tell me anything. And there was intimacy between Scout and me. I would tell her anything if I had the chance. And later when I started writing, I always went back to that feeling. It was like, I need to create a character that I'm willing to totally expose, because most of my writing is first person narrator. So that narrator is telling you, the reader, a story. And I think there's a contract that the writer has with the reader. It's like, I'll bring my best imagination to the writing and you bring your best imagination to the reading, and the book will be better than the one I wrote, because the reader's history is as important as the writer's history. And then I was a psychology and sociology major when I was in college. So I was reading a lot of, textbook stuff. And when I got out, I started reading a lot of Kurt Vonnegut, and who was a big name when I was a young man. And I remember reading The Color Purple, Alice Walker's The Color Purple, and I'd been writing for a while. And I thought, I bet I read that book 3 times just to figure out how she did it. And then when I got into, I realized that I was into a genre that was, YA, young adult stuff. And I started reading Laurie Halse Anderson. I started reading Walter D. Myers and Christopher Paul Curtis when he started. I got to read the Watsons Go to Birmingham in manuscript form. And I was sitting on a plane reading it, and I was laughing as hard as I could. And I thought, man, he's about to break my heart, because it was about the church bombings in Birmingham. And those are the books that you read those books and you think, you read them twice if you're a writer. You read it once for the joy, and then you read it to see how it was done. And then, I was lucky enough to be able to get to meet a lot of those people in my travels and things. And so those were some of them. Recently I read Laurie Halse Anderson's Shout. That's just a masterpiece. That's a jaw-dropping book, and it's written in verse, and I'm not a poet, but boy, I'll tell you what, you don't need to be. And it is as revealing a story as you ever will read. And Kekla Magoon wrote this amazing book called How It Went Down, and she wrote this. It's about a shooting. It's about a young African American kid who's been shot by a white guy, and he's not a cop, but it's one of those maybe mistaken things. She tells it through 13 different points of view, and you never get lost. It's all these people who knew this kid or who knew this shooter. And those are books that I've read recently. Christopher Paul Curtis has another one called the Journey of Big Charlie or Young Charlie, whatever it is. That's a masterpiece of what it was like to be an ignorant white kid back during slave days. And it brings history. Those kind of books bring history. They make history matter. And so those are some of the books that I've read recently.
Chris, let me shoot you another one. You talked about your own work and the fact that you're looking for intensity, and that obviously that can be informed by characters, or it can be informed by a situation. But think back about your characters. This is always one of those trick questions. Do you have a favorite character from all of your books?
Well, I wrote an autobiography, so my favorite character is me.
Oh yeah, that one.
But that's a really good question, because part of my translation of that question is, what character connects to me, you know, that I go back. And I probably, it's probably the character is TJ in Whale Talk. And the reason for that is, number one, he's a mixed race kid. And his kind of the way he looks and his a lot of his characteristics are the same characteristics as if I were traditional and we're married, he would be my number 2 stepson. And I mean, he's 45 now, and I've known him since he was 6. And he was a good athlete, and he had that kind of, he was real funny. And he didn't have the really hard life that TJ had, but I knew plenty of kids who did. And I put so many plot pieces in that story that were real. And some of them were real from my childhood, and some of them were some of the most intense, came from, were the sources of some of the most intense therapy sessions that I'd ever done. And so that character's view of those things was really a lot like mine was. So that character is probably I look back and I say, if I were going to be remembered, if I could only be remembered for one book so far, probably it would be Whale Talk, partly because of the narration, partly because of the character that he really struck me, and partly because the plot itself and there's a whole lot of stuff in there about race and about bigotry. And, when I grew up in, I was early 60s for high school and late 60s for college. So I grew up in hippie era. And I thought we had done a lot more work on racial bigotry than we have done, because boy, it doesn't look pretty to me now. And I just, it's just one of those things that I think I have to write about. And, I am a member of a class of people that is the most privileged human beings that ever lived on this planet. I'm an old white guy. Nobody ever stopped my car for any reason other than that I was really speeding. I've never had to account for something that wasn't my fault. And I think it's incumbent on me to tell stories about that.
Just a couple more questions, maybe. We're getting to the end, but here, go back to your own writing practices. Kind of do you have a routine? Do you write in the morning? Do you write, how does a book come to be for you?
When I'm finished with a book and I'm looking around for the next one, I'm looking for something that really catches my attention, or really, sometimes it comes to me, I've already thought of it while I was writing another book, but I'll look at a happening, like the shooting, like the Newtown shooting, or I'll look at I'll always in my mind, I have characters that I know would be great in a book, people I've met, they're the sources of characters. I'm auditory, so I'm probably more auditory than I am visual. So I hear the voices, and then it's just this, Robert Cormier, we were talking about him earlier. Robert Cormier used to say over and over again, he said the mantra of the fiction writer is, what if, what if, what if? And what if is the next place you go with your story. Like, I never know where the story's going, but I can keep giving myself what if until I come on a good one. I'm better now. I'm a little better now, but I've always had this attention problem. So I know that I can be intense writing for about 20 minutes or 25 minutes, and then I'm up walking around and talking, or I have to go move. But I always know I can come back to it. I'll think it out, or I'll talk it out. I mean, I can look pretty far out there if you watch me write a book sometimes. But then I come back to the story. And one of the things I always do is I always try to stop writing before I've ended what I'm writing about. In other words, I know where I'm going to go next when I stop writing in a given day, because I don't like to start from a dead stop. So if I do happen to stop at a dead stop, then I go back and read the last, 3 or 4 pages that I wrote so I can get some traction. every day for me is different. It's not so much different now, but when I was traveling, it was just, I'd ride on airplanes and I'd ride in hotels and things like that. And that's broken up. But the trick then, if you're not doing it, if you're not actually sitting down writing, think about it. Talk with other people about what I'm, about the subject that I'm writing about. Make sure that I'm getting the details right, that kind of thing. And, so every day is a little bit different for me. I listen to Lois Lowry, and she has a schedule, and she has a writing time, and she treats it like a job, which I think is a really smart thing to do for some people. I'm just not very good at doing it that way.
Couple little things, then we'll wrap it up. Rick asked an interesting question. He said, teachers miss their students as much as students miss their teachers. You're not only a writer, but you've been a therapist. Do you have any advice to teachers, especially who worry about their students beyond their academics in this time?
Yeah, I do, and it's incomplete, because I know that feeling, and everybody got interrupted. All of a sudden you were in school and then you weren't, both for students and teachers. Most of us in my time as teaching, and I was part of my time teaching, a lot of my time teaching was in alternative school. So a lot of the kids that I worked with had some pretty rugged things going on at home. And had they got, locked at home during this time, I would have worried too. The one thing I would say is make as many connections as you can make. I mean, you're going to see them as teachers. You're going to see them, online for your classes and things. But if there's email and stuff that can go back and forth, I've had some things recently where I did a school visit, and then I would do a 15-minute Zoom with some kid that wanted to talk about something, that kind of thing. Now you have to be careful with that if you're a teacher, because you have to have permission. You have to get okay with the parent. So there's a part of it that bothers me that I don't have an answer for, because I know there's a lot going on that you can't find out. But, I say the same thing that I say to any parent of an adolescent. Be ready, expect them 3% of the time, but be ready 98% of the time, because if contact gets made, it's important. And, I always feel I've done this with, I have old clients that I still am in contact with, and I do worry about them, but I know I have to wait for them to make contact, because I won't be able to get to them. So I just, I guess the short answer to that is I'm going to leave myself available as much as I can, knowing that I'm still going to worry.
Chris, we're just about wrapping it up. One other question, or maybe just a quick thumbnail with this. Patricia asked, you had talked about the gun book that you're working on right now, and you mentioned a couple of books. Is there something else you're working on that you want to tell us about yet, or not?
Well, I've got one on the editor's desk, and it's a little more frivolous. It's about it's called Camp Infinity, and it's about this is perfect for this group. It's about a kid who's been invited based on three or four really exceptional essays and stories. He's been invited to this elite summer writing camp up in the woods in Vermont, and his teacher and his parents got together, or his mom got together and applied for this elite writing camp. And they have no idea that he didn't write them. His girlfriend wrote them. And now he's headed to an elite writing camp where everybody wants to be a writer except him. And he shows up at Camp Infinity. I had a lot of fun writing that book.
That ought to be terrific. Yeah. Well, listen, I think we've had a terrific chat. I thank you. I know everyone in Youngstown thanks you. We look forward to actually getting you back in person at some point, and we'll look forward to that. I want to thank everybody that's been listening. We got a lot of great questions from you, and thanks for sending them. We are looking ahead to 2021 when we'll have you on campus, we hope. I want to turn this over to Angela Messenger, who is going to lead us through. We're going to go right into the awards ceremony right now. And Chris is going to hang around with us while we're doing the awards. And I thank you all very much, and we'll be back at it. Thanks a lot.
And I thank you too. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Chris Crutcher, as well. So I have the distinguished honor of welcoming everybody to the awards ceremony. So this is our 2020 virtual edition of the English Festival, and we are delighted to have you online to join us today. And we are going to announce the winners of the contest, both from prior to the festival as well as what was completed online. I am going to be asking my colleagues so that I can announce the stage here. I'm going to ask them to turn on their video as well so that you can see everybody. Okay, and all right, so hopefully you can now see some of the folks. I'm going to skip to introducing the stage. We have Dr. Jeff Buchanan, who's co-chair of the English Festival. He's given it a wave. We've got Dr. Stacy Graber, who is an English Festival committee member. We have returning now in our English Festival t-shirt, Dr. Gary Salvner, English Festival co-chair. We have Jackie Mercer, English Festival committee member, joining us. And I do want to give a shout out. We've got some folks working behind the scenes. Carol Hart, Nikki Erickson are on the call. And I would certainly be remiss if I also didn't acknowledge Melanie Lowe, Rick Williams, Dr. Terry Benton, Dr. Laura Beedling. Everybody has been so instrumental in bringing this festival online for our first foray like this. I'm going to take a moment to share a screen so that you're not watching us all the whole time. So give me just a moment here. Oh, well, that's a surprise spoiler. It did not go to where I wanted it to be. Sorry about that. Maybe you saw it. All right, so before we begin, please remember that all of our recorded events from this year's program are going to be available on Facebook as well as our YouTube channel, continuing at least through the end of the month and possibly longer in most cases. So please do check those out as you are available. I do also want to point out that we will be giving out prizes. So teachers and students will be contacting either or both of you to make arrangements for that. So expect contact via email or snail mail as we're able to contact you. We do have English Festival pins and t-shirts, and I'm actually not going to get out of the video to show those, but some of our, like I said, colleagues are wearing those today. So well, I am going to have a little further ado. I would certainly also be remiss without thanking our contributors. So please keep in mind that the festival cannot happen without our contributions, great and small, from many individuals. Right now, I want to thank some of our grand benefactors. And they are, let me actually stop sharing for a moment. Yeah, okay, so we can see everybody for a second. All right, so Dr. and Mrs. Gary Salvner, in memory of Jeremy Salvner. Mahoning Valley Distributing Agency, Dr. Rick Shale, Jackie and Ross Mercer, Bruce and Nancy W. Beagley Family Foundation, Warren P. Williamson Jr. Fund, the Ives Trust, Jeff Buchanan and Jennifer Holliday Buchanan, the Todd Foundation, Scott R. Schulich, and certainly everybody else, every other organization and individual who's contributed funds or their equally valuable time and energy. We thank you. We also thank you, students, for making this transition online, and thank you for making it work every year. So with that, I'm going to happily turn this over to Dr. Jeff Buchanan, the co-chair, for some of our first prizes.
Hi, thank you, Angela. Welcome again, folks, to the 2020 awards ceremony. The first award we are going to be now announcing is the English Festival Writing Award for Teachers. And actually, I'm not going to announce that, but we're going to turn back to our friend Chris Crutcher to ask him to announce it. But before I do, I want to just ask teachers to consider entering our English Festival Writing Award for Teachers. Entries are not due until August 15th, and this might be the perfect year to reflect on a most unusual English festival and on your teaching, a year of unusual teaching too, I'm assuming. Additional information is available on our website. So you can turn there to get more information on it. And now, you know, I think Chris Crutcher's been to 45 English festivals. Wait, not true, not true, because there's only been 42. But what we've learned about him this year is that if every English festival were virtual, he would have been at all of them.
That's true. I would. And, you know, this is an award that, boy, back in the day, I wish I would have won. I mean, just the whole idea of getting everybody writing. I mean, teachers, kids, and everything. And this year, the English Festival Writing Award for Teachers goes to Michael Morley from Grove City Middle School in Grove City, Pennsylvania.
Congratulations, Michael.
And I've seen a lot of the writing that teachers do, and that's good competition. That's good competition.
Okay, Jackie, we are going to come up to you next for our next category.
Okay, so these are the winners of the stay-at-home poetry contest. And we'd like to, first of all, say thank you to all of you who entered. The committee really enjoyed reading all of these poems. So I'm going to start with the 7th through 9th grade winners. So I'm just going to announce names and schools and then what kind of poem they wrote. So I have 7th through 9th grade. These are the People's Choice Awards. So these were posted. This was based on likes, shares, comments. So we have Caitlin Rimmel from Armstrong Junior Senior High School wrote a winning haiku. Robert John from Armstrong Junior Senior High School also wrote a winning haiku based on a festival book. Bailey Hoddle from Armstrong Junior Senior High School wrote a limerick, and Annie Atwood from Armstrong Junior Senior High School wrote a limerick based on an English Festival book. So congratulations to those People's Choice winners for 7 through 9 stay-at-home poetry. We gave some special awards that the English Festival Committee awarded. So we have 2 of those. Ava Schellenbarger from Hermitage School District in PA. She won an award for a category that we called Best Family Can't Live Without Them Limerick. So congratulations, we loved it. And Curtis Prox from Maplewood High School in Trumbull County won a category that we called the Best Scary Coronavirus Haiku. So congratulations, they were so fun to read. Moving on to our 10th through 12th grade, we had, again, some People's Choice Awards. So we have Sierra Burchett Norquist from LaBrea High School wrote a haiku based on a book. And it was a People's Choice Award winner. Veronica McDowell from Archbishop Hoban High School also wrote a winning haiku. And again, here we go, Sierra Burchett Norquist, she was quite the poet from LaBrea High School, also wrote a limerick that won our People's Choice based on a book. And then we have one special award from the committee, from the English Festival Committee, and this was Isabel Polith from Archbishop Hoban High School, and she won for her limerick that she wrote. So congratulations to all of our poets. We really appreciate your participation. They were a lot of fun to read, so thank you, and good work.
Congratulations, everyone. Thank you, Jackie. We're gonna turn it over to Dr. Graber for the next category.
Hi, everyone. I am going to be announcing the winners for grade 7 through 9 graphic essay competition. Second prize winner goes to Swathi Padmanabhan. Woo! And first prize winner goes to Michael. Good job. We loved judging those pieces. Excellent work. And I'd like to announce the winners for grades 10 through 12 graphic essay competition. Second prize goes to Sierra Burchett Norquist. And first prize goes to James Kohler. Congratulations, everyone. Beautiful work. Outstanding.
Thank you, Stacy. Great job. Dr. Salvner, turning it over to you for the English Festival Art Contest.
We had a lot of wonderful pieces of art that were submitted this year. And as I start reading off the names, I want to remind all of you listening that all of the winning art pieces show up on a Prezi that our committee member Rick Williams did. You can find the link on Facebook. So I'm going to read off first the honorable mentions in grades 7 through 9. And here they are. Delaney Grubbs from Niles McKinley, Mary Fleming from Valley STEM Academy, Cadence Rowley of Niles McKinley, Raylan Wahlberg of Greenville, Charlie Showers of Franklin High School, Ella Mae Partheimer of Maplewood, Byron E. Shipe of Armstrong, Alyssa Collins of Niles McKinley, Natalie Watson of Niles McKinley, Bailey Hodel of Armstrong, Cadence Golias of Niles McKinley, Evangelina Campbell of Valley Christian Schools Lewis Center, Ava Formani of Armstrong Junior Senior High School, Chesney Sayers of Niles McKinley, Evelyn Collier of Western Reserve, and Jalen Brunson of South School for the Arts. In the levels 7 through 9 level, there was one fourth prize winner, and that person is a student from Valley STEM Academy, Jennifer Tedrow. The third prize winner is a student from Northwestern Middle School, Taya Pavolko. And second prize, a student from Sharpsville Middle School, Ava B. And the first prize winner in the 7 through 9 division in the art contest is a student from Grove City Middle School, Willow Kendrowski. Congratulations to all of them. And I want to move right into the art contest for grades 10 through 12, I'm sorry. In the 10th through 12th level, we also have a number of honorable mention recipients, and they are Leah Tanise Sidney of Valley Christian Schools, Hannah Thomas of Maplewood High School in Ohio, Jane Steele of Blackhawk, Leilani Merkel of Fort LeBoeuf, Emma Voigthofer of Niles McKinley, Marie Harley of Cardinal Mooney, Sonny Rodriguez of Cardinal Mooney, Caitlin Perry of Cardinal Mooney, Sierra Burchett Northquist of LeBray, Jillian McAvoy of Matthews, Jonae Jones of Valley Christian Schools, Dahlia Bussey of Niles McKinley, Christina Gallios of Niles McKinley, Hannah Johnson of Niles McKinley, and Etha Hess of Niles McKinley. There's one third prize recipient, actually two of them, and they will, and I'm going to read their names. Kellen Davis Hall of Niles McKinley, and Marissa Sullivan, also of Niles McKinley. The second prize recipient is a student from Franklin High School. Her name is Ashley Ramage. And the first prize winner is a student from Niles McKinley High School, Lorianne Jewell. Congratulations to all of the art winners. I want to move right into the music contest. The maddeningly challenging and difficult task that some of you took on to write original musical compositions based on the art based on the books. I want to read off the winners in the grades 7 through 9 division first. There were a few honorable mentions, and they are Emma Harley of Hubbard Middle School and Aiden Cole of Jackson Milton. And the third prize recipient, there were actually two third prize winners, Fisher Anderson from Grove City Middle School, and Hannah Spurl of Armstrong Junior Senior High School. The second prize recipient is a student from Armstrong Junior Senior High School, Nolan Heilman. And the first prize recipient is a student from the Montessori School of Mahoning Valley, Michael G. I'm going to shift congratulations to all of them. I want to shift to the grades 10 through 12 entries. And while I'm doing that, I want to make a quick note that there was a presentation at 1 o'clock today featuring many of the winners of the music contest. That is going to be loaded onto our YouTube channel. You get a chance to hear excerpts from a number of the music entries and the first prize recipients. There's some wonderful pieces of music. So I hope you have a chance to check them out. In grades 10 through 12, there was one honorable mention recipient, and it is Megan Breeson of Armstrong. There are two people writing together, composing together, who won third prize, Hannah Van Dyke and Allison Krem from Sharpsville High School. The second prize is a student at Poland Seminary High School, Lydia Noble. And the first prize is a student from Grand Valley High School, Madison Easton. Congratulations to all of the winners in the Jeremy Salvner Memorial Music Contest.
Thank you, Dr. Salvner. We're going to move over to Dr. Buchanan to present the next category and final category today.
No, I overlooked one category that I want to come back to. While we very much miss the slight chaos that is often the awards ceremony, we look forward to that next year, we hope in the spring. But we are very grateful that many of you found us online and found sessions that you enjoyed. And we're grateful that you got the opportunity to hear Rich and Sandra Wallace and Rita Williams Garcia. And we're also grateful that you were able to contribute and ask some questions. We wish we could have done more of that, and we're sorry if we didn't get to your question, but we certainly appreciated your participation. And so for those who sent in questions, we drew a name from the hat and picked a 2020 festival participant award winner, and that winner is Aiden Cole from Jackson Milton. And now I'm going to go on to the Candace Gay Memorial Essay Awards. Thank you to those of you who participated in this contest, wrote back when you thought you might be able to walk across the stage in Kilcawley Center in the Chestnut Room to get these awards. But you wrote well, and we had a good time reading and judging your essays. And we had a number of 7th through 9th grade honorable mentions, and I'll start in that category. Those winners are Aiden Sheik from Valley Christian Schools, Lewis Center, Quinn McKnight from Grove City Middle School, Lawrence Powers from Greenville Junior Senior High School, Swathi Padmanabhan from Boardman Glenwood, Juliana Sophia Hartzell from Greenville, Arabella Burt from Armstrong, Olivia Rose Gentile from Greenville, Evelyn Dickinson from Wilmington area, Isaac Lee Hightree from Greenville, Greenville Valley Christian Schools, it looks like. From Greenville. Elijah Joseph Otto Williams from Valley Christian Schools, Lewis Center, Isabella Perry from Maplewood High School, Zachary Radford Morgan from Greenville, Bryson Himes from Maplewood, Kendall Ackerman from Miller South School for Visual and Performing Arts, Wyatt Omerzo from Maplewood, Alexander Harcourt from Greenville, Ethan Cole Morgan from Maplewood, John Strausser from Greenville, and Chloe Hernandez from Maplewood. Those were the honorable mentions in 7th through 9th grade Candace Gay essay contest. We have 4 5th prize winners. They are Caitlin Rimmel from Armstrong, Bridget Wagner Donlin from Valley Christian Schools Lewis Center, Owen Schwendeman from Valley Christian Schools Lewis Center, and Lorelei Huff from Valley STEM Me Too Academy. 3 4th prize winners. They are Rachel Stockdill from Armstrong, Nathan Ferrero from Armstrong, and Marie Fletcher from Rice Avenue Middle School. We have a 3rd prize winner. She is Jennifer Tedrow from Valley STEM Me Too Academy. And 2 2nd prize winners, Irene Dong from Canfield High School and Emma Harris from Maplewood High School. And the 1st prize winner in the Candace Gay Memorial Essay Contest for 7th to 9th grade is Megan Ickes from Greenville Junior Senior High School. Congratulations, Megan. Congratulations, other winners and all writers. And then, of course, we have the 10th through 12th grade Candace Gay Memorial Essay Award winners. We'll start with honorable mentions. They are Jonathan Hall from Grand Valley High School, Sierra Burchett Norquist from LeBray, Isaac Purchase from Grand Valley High School, Paige Gray from Grove City High School, Alexandria Patron from Cardinal Mooney High School, Madison Takacs from Grand Valley High School, Molly Hockman from Grove City Area High School, and Haley Eckes from Conneaut Area High School. Congratulations, honorable mention. 5th prize goes to Andrew Camus from Armstrong Junior Senior High School. 4th prize to Sylvia Traw, Mineral Ridge High School. 3rd prize to Amelia Kovac, Sharpsville Area High School. 2nd prize, Isabella Galt, Greenville Junior Senior High School. And 1st prize from Lincoln Park Performing Arts Charter School, Malia Lankner. 1st prize, Candace Gay Memorial Essay Contest. Congratulations, Malia. Congratulations, other winners.
Thank you, Jeff. Okay, it is my pleasure to announce the dates for the 2021 festival. We are certainly hoping that we can be back on campus for our 43rd annual English Festival. The dates for that event, as you can see on your screen, will be April 21st through 23rd, with the training dates for teachers being the week prior to that. We are also pleased to announce our 2021 speakers. Fortunately, this year's Thomas and Carol Gay lecturer, as well as our James Houck lecturer, have agreed to come back to campus again next year. So Rita Williams Garcia, Rich Wallace, and Sandra Neal Wallace will be returning. And then the new information, super excited that the New York Times bestselling author Brutus Zepetis will serve as our Thomas and Carol Gay guest lecturer for 2021. As always, we hope that you will watch our social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube for more information, as well as our English Festival website. And I'm going to stop sharing that screen so that we can see folks on here. It looks like Chris Crutcher has left today, but I want to certainly give a chance for everybody to say goodbye, and thank you so much for wrapping up the 2020 online edition of the festival.
Great job, all.
Everybody. Thank you.
Congratulations.